Hello and welcome back to another episode of a weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Forza Motorsport once again, the new one, the one that should be called 8 but isn't, and I feel like I have to mention that every time so people don't get confused. Today I am showing you two things compared to last week. First of all, you may already have noticed this is online gameplay. This is my second ever online match. I've been meaning to get back to online because it is honestly some of the most fun I've ever had in a track racing game, or simcade racing game, or boring racing game, or whatever you want to call Forza Motorsport and Gran Turismo and Grid and those types of games. And second, I just had a sudden feeling that some people are angry at me for including Grid with Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport. There's definitely different degrees of like simcade, but I don't know, I feel like Grid belongs there. But the other thing is I'm running this on my PC. You may have noticed from the FPS counter that I forgot to turn off when I was kind of benchmarking. This race runs at a nice smooth 60 frames a second, but other tracks with other weather effects, sometimes it dips down to about 45, and I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. So I have a 3060 and this is on max settings except for ray tracing, which I've turned off to save a bit of bandwidth or CPU or whatever, because I don't know about you, but I never noticed ray tracing. Like, so much hype was blown about ray tracing, and like from everyone I like follow in the gaming sphere, not just like the people who are trying to sell you the graphics cards, but like actually people who are into gaming. But I watch the comparison videos and I go, oh yeah, that does look a bit prettier. If I turn off the option in game, I'm like, I don't see anything that's changed. So to me this looks perfectly fine. But yeah, ray tracing is off, but other than that, this is all max settings. I'm on a 3060, I'm on an i5 I believe. I think I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. I don't even remember my own specs anymore. But it pretty much runs like a dream, so that's nice. But again, on certain weather conditions and tracks and stuff, it can dip down, and I'm still on the fence about whether I want to keep it installed on my PC and deal with that, and maybe like turn some settings down, or maybe just go back to my Series S where I don't have to think about any of that. But I don't know, the main concern I had with graphics on my Series S was that cars in the distance looked like they were at a lower resolution than my car, and I don't know if max settings on PC really gets rid of that. I've heard some people criticize the kind of shadow work in this game, like under cars or whatever, and I guess maybe that's what I'm picking up on. Maybe like in the distance the shadow underneath the car kind of looks a bit fuzzy and it makes the entire image look a bit weird. But I don't know, this is absolutely a gorgeous game, don't worry, I'm not blind. I'm not denying that. I'm just very obsessive over trying to make sure that I have the best possible experience that I can with this game. But yeah, I've been continuing to play Forza Motorsport. As you can see from my level, I haven't sunk a huge amount of time into it. I don't know if you can see my level actually. Obviously you can see my car level right now, but that's different. My player level is about 25 or 30 or something, I don't even remember. But there is someone in this lobby who is like level 196 or something, and I'm like, Jesus, they're not even VIPs, so they've only been playing since it came out on Game Pass about a week ago. I'm like, what the actual hell? How is that even possible? That is frightening. But yeah, what I love about multiplayer so much is that it really does feel like more natural racing. Again, I can't even drive, so I'm saying more natural racing, but you know what I mean. Like I'm trying not to bump into other players. Sometimes I wish they would do a better job of also trying not to bump into me, but there you go. It feels like there's almost like a narrative which unfolds in terms of like battling for position in a pack, and then I think I pretty much fell behind in between two packs of cars here, and I was fairly happy with where I ended up, to be perfectly honest. But it's definitely so much more interesting than just racing against AI in single player. Like, there's so much more that can happen, it's so much more unpredictable, and the stakes feel so much higher, and I absolutely love that, and I should play more multiplayer in these games. I'm sure there have been other track racing games which have evoked a similar sense of what this is doing now, but to me this is the first time. Like, I think I played some Gran Turismo Sport online, but this is like the first time I've really got kind of stuck in. Anyway, those were the qualifying laps. I just realised I spoiled kind of where I end up in this race, but oh well, you're not here for the plot, are you? But yeah, Forza Motorsport, good game. Probably going to be playing it off and on for a very, very long time. Again, I'll probably hop between my PC and my Series S over time, purely because it's such a big install. I did end up finally uninstalling Baldur's Gate 3 and admitting to myself that I'm not going to be playing that for a bit. and instead decided to use that install space to install Forza Motorsport. I also uninstalled Guild Wars 2, I should mention as well. I've kind of given up on Guild Wars 2 for a bit. I think it was a couple of weekly waypoints ago I was talking about how I burned out on that, and how I kind of felt the MMO loop a little bit too much, and how I might have enjoyed it a bit more if it was a game I'd played 10 years ago. I will get back to Guild Wars 2 as well, don't worry. Like, I'm not writing it off and never playing it again, you know, like I've bought the expansions, I'm going to get back to it, but I just don't feel like it right now. But instead I've used that install space to install Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and if anyone knows me, you'll know that Ratchet and Clank is my favourite video game series. Like, obviously I've got video games, individual video games that I think I enjoy more, like Skyrim or like MMOs and stuff, but in terms of like a video game series, Ratchet and Clank consistently is the series that I enjoy the most, and is the series I have the most history with, and I just, when I think of video games, just like the concept of a video game, honestly Ratchet and Clank is what springs to mind. If you want to hear me gush more about Ratchet and Clank, I do have a video called What Ratchet and Clank Means to Me, or I think I changed the title to Ratchet & Clank is my favourite video game series, here's why. But I've wanted Rift Apart ever since it was announced for PS5. I was extremely excited when I saw it announced for PS5, but I do not have a PS5. However, by some miracle of chance, they said, Christian, don't worry, we've got you. And they ported it to PC. Back in July, actually, it came out, but I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been a very busy year for amazing video games, and so with finances as well in tow, what am I saying? I decided to pretend that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart didn't exist. However, the other day, I was able to purchase it, and I did, and I have not just sat down and played the game start to finish for a few reasons. First of all, I want to make it last. I have a new Ratchet and Clank experience to play through, and I don't just want to burn through it all in like a day or two. I want to... basically what I'm doing is I am playing about a level a day at the minute, and it's not something I'm like limiting myself to either. I'm not playing a level and then forcing myself to stop. It's like I'm having a really delicious drink, and I'm having like, you know, some of it. Okay, that's really nice. And then I don't need to chug all of it, so I can just like wait till I need it again. That's a really weird metaphor. Something I've noticed with collectathon platformers, just like pure collectathon platformers, is that I don't enjoy them nearly as much as I did as a kid. So I think some of that crosses over into Ratchet and Clank, where I'm not as, you know, I don't desire to just like play this thing start to finish like I would have as a kid, because that innate desire to collect and complete everything in the game immediately isn't there for me anymore. However, I also think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is one of the best and most fun games I've played this year. It is so good. Don't let the rest of what I have just said steer you wrong. I fucking love Rift Apart, and there is part of me, I will admit, that goes like, oh, this feels more like Ratchet and Clank on PS4 or Ratchet and Clank A Crack in Time than it does Ratchet and Clank like the PS2 games. And obviously it does, I wasn't expecting otherwise, but I'm starting to realise I think Ratchet and Clank on PS2 are probably my favourite style of Ratchet and Clank games. I can't quite put my finger on why. I think in terms of like environment, the environments in Rift Apart are so pretty, but like the amount of environmental detail and clutter kind of like it, we're not in the era anymore where you can like see the layout of a game level in terms of like, oh, these corridors go this way or whatever, and I kind of miss that in a weird way. Like, there is something about that I miss. It's like I can quantify the game world a little bit better, and it's definitely not a criticism on Rift Apart's side. It's more just like, gaming used to be a bit like this, and I liked this, and now it's more like this, and I like that, but I also miss this. Bloody hell, between this and my Wheel of Time video this week, I don't know if it's possible for me to praise anything without it sound like I'm criticising it. Seriously, look for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on my Game of the Year listings, because I do Game of the Year based on what I played, not on what came out. It will be up there. Like, Doom tried so hard and succeeded really well at doing kind of like this gun chess idea. And they were talking about it like they invented it, and I remember when I saw it, I was like, this is Ratchet and Clank. This is what Ratchet and Clank does. You've got different guns for different occasions and situations in battle. And by the time Doom 2016 had come out, Ratchet and Clank was already doing this. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say the PS2 games were quite as good at doing this, but A Crack in Time certainly was like, you know, you were just hot swapping between different weapons, which necessitated different needs for what was happening in combat. And Rift Apart also does this so well. Like, I see groups of enemies, I change to a shatter bomb, and like I make sure I've already got like a fungi dude out. I forget what that weapon's called, but he's basically Mr. Zircon. He's basically like the auto turret. I need some breathing space, I throw out a topiary sprinkler to like halt the enemies in place. Like, I'm trying to like shoot a single guy, I change to like the blast pistol, or if they're up close, like whatever their shotgun variant this game is called, I forget. And there are so many guns I have not yet unlocked either, but the gun chess, or whatever Doom called it, combat chess, is so prevalent in Rift Apart, and it is so like, you just get immersed in it. It is just natural, it is just what you do, and it's so fun. I'm playing on the second to hardest difficulty because I found it a little bit too easy in the middle difficulty. I don't think there's any achievements relating to difficulty, but for maybe the first time in gaming, I didn't overthink it and I just went, I like Ratchet and Clank when it's a bit of a challenge, but it's not too easy. And it is the absolute perfect difficulty for me. There have been a few times when I've died and I've been like, oh, that's annoying, but like the checkpoint system is generous enough that it doesn't feel annoying when you die. It just feels like, okay, let me try that again, which I think is what games should strive for. I don't like games, you know, I like games to be tough but not punishing. I like games which let me retry the very difficult thing over and over again, not games which punish me for failing the very difficult thing and make me do a bunch of unnecessary gameplay over again. And Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart nails that as well. Anyway, I love Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, to nobody's surprise. I've basically spent this entire weekly Waypoint talking about two different video games, which is fine, but I also want to give a brief mention to Unruly, a book which I mentioned last week by David Mitchell, which I'm still reading and still finding fascinating. I attribute like enjoying history as like a part of my personality, but in reality I'm still very much like a novice of like knowing things which occurred. And this book, if you are like me, I saw somebody describe it as horrible histories for adults, which I think is very apt. Like, it is for adults, it's not like a kiddie thing like horrible histories, but it's funny and it's approachable and it's very informative and very, apparently very like good researched proper history. It is fascinating and I very much recommend that book. In terms of Doctor Who, because it's a very Doctor Who kind of a year this year and I'm very much into Doctor Who right now, the themes for the 50th anniversary intro for Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor and for Ruby Sunday's theme, they've all come out and they're all incredible. I'm actually addicted to the 15th Doctor's theme a little bit and I'm trying to hold off because I don't want to get to the point where I hear it for the first time in a show and I'm taken out of the events because I'm going, oh, this is where they're using 15's theme. But honestly, it's so good. Like, if you like I Am the Doctor, but you want something different, this is very much in that vein. Like, it is different, don't get me wrong, but it's also like, oh, this is very much the Doctor's theme. It's actually impressive how much it is the Doctor's theme without relying on previous themes. I'm so fucking excited for the 60th anniversary episodes, and I'm so excited for the 15th Doctor episodes, and I'm so excited for RTD2. Oh, I forgot I left that in. I was basically going to investigate that player's profile. Yeah, sorry, he's 694, not 196 or whatever I said. I already made a video as well talking about all of the Doctor Who classic that's coming to BBC iPlayer. I've been keeping an eye on that stuff. It does look like that is going to be the case, like it's going to be every episode that they already had available. I asked Russell T Davies about this on Instagram and he just liked my comment, the cheeky bastard. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this episode of A Weekly Waypoint. If you liked it, do feel free to just feel free to leave a like if you liked it, because it helps the channel a lot and I appreciate it. It gives me a little smile. And subscribe for more weekly episodes to see what I'm playing and hear what I think about the video gaming industry and books and shows and music, apparently.